Okay, this is our third video. In this video, we're going to talk about, let's see, attributes of sine and cosine. Okay, we'll see what else we get to, but we're going to cover for sure the attributes of sine and cosine, and then also look at their graphs. So that will be my goal for this one. Okay, sine and cosine. First of all, let's look at y equals or f of x equals sine. Actually, let's don't do that. There are four things we need to know. Number one is a positive and negative. Number two is the amplitude. Okay, and then we have our trig words, so sine or cosine goes in here. And then we have b times x plus and minus c. And then we have plus and minus d. Right? So these are the four parts of your trig equation. Okay. This part right here, the thing in front, right? This one, the multiplier, the scalar multiplier of your fraction of your trig. This is your amplitude. Amplitude tells you how high or low you go above your midline. So every graph will have a midline. Some of it is going to be the origin. So your amplitude is how high above and below your midline your graph goes. So this is telling you what the amplitude is, not the entire displacement, but only from the midline to the top or from the midline to the bottom. That is the same. That is your amplitude. From the middle to the top and from the middle to the bottom. Okay, your B value, this helps you calculate your period. Okay, it helps you calculate your period. It does not tell you what it is. Your period is always 2 pi divided by your B value. Whatever number is in front of x. Okay, it doesn't have to be outside of parentheses. It may or may not have a phase shift, but you need to calculate your period by doing 2 pi divided by b. Okay, that's for sine and cosine. If we had a tangent, for tangent, then your period is only pi divided by b. Okay, tangent and cotangent are different. Secant, cosecant, sine and cosine are all 2 pi, but tan and cotan are only 1 pi divided by b, not 6 divided by b. Okay, so tan is different than sine and cosine. Okay, the C is your phase shift, left or right, and they're always opposite, right? This is always an opposite one. So pluses go left and minuses go right. Right? If it's inside of parentheses, then it lies to you. That's what we need to remember. Parentheses lie. And then the D, this is your vertical shift. AKA, where is your midline? Where is the middle of your graph? Okay. That number at the end, or it can come in the front, is your middle. That's how high or low your graph has been moved, up and down, right? Vertically speaking. Okay, so those are all the things you need to know about your trig graphs. Okay, what is the amplitude? B is used to calculate the period. C inside of parentheses is your phase shift. And D, the number on the outside, is your vertical shift or your midline. Okay, all those things. Oh, that was pretty short. So let's talk about law of sines and cosines. Okay, so your law of sines is a formula that we can use when we don't have a right triangle. Right? Notice that that is not a right triangle. It does not have a box in any of the corners. So what you need to have in order to use your law of sines, we need to know two things. You need to know one side, and you need to know the angle across from that side. Okay, that's what you need to know. If you don't know that information, then you can't use the law of sines. So maybe this is angle A, and this is little side A. This is angle B, and across from it is side B. Angle C, and across from it is little side C. So the law of sine says if we compare the side to the sine of the angle across from it, that is in proportion to comparing any other side to the sine of the angle across from it. Okay, so it is an extended proportion because it also goes with side C. So we're going to use any two of these, right? Depends on what information we know. We can use this part of the law of sines, these two, or we could use A and B, or we can use A and C. Okay, so that's what the law of sines says. You need to know the side across from the angle. You need to have one of those ratios having both numbers. And then you can use that to solve for other things. So that's the law of sines. Okay. Now the law of cosines is also formed with non-right triangles. Okay, so here's side A and little angle A, angle B and little b, angle C and little c. So the law of sines says that we can find any one of these side lengths. B squared equals, okay, that would be A squared plus C squared, right? The sum of the other two sides. Basically, this is a side angle side problem. So if we know side A, and if we know side C, and if we know angle B, if we know those three things, then we can figure out what side length B is. And so this is what helps us if we know side angle side. So let's go back to the formula. B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C times the cosine of angle B. So notice if we know angle B, we can calculate side B, right? If we knew angle A, we could calculate side A simply by switching the letters around. So that's if you want to find a side length and you know two other sides and the middle angle. Now, what if you wanted to find an angle? Like maybe we want to find angle A per se. Well, that is an inverse cosine. If we solve this equation for our angle, we get, in this case, B squared plus C squared minus A squared over 2 times B times C. Okay, so if we're finding angle A, if angle A is what we're looking for, and we know all three sides, then if we're finding angle A, then you are subtracting side A from the other two squares. Okay, so these are the formulas for the law of cosines. There's one to find sides, right? So this is the one we use to find a side length using the law of cosines, and this is the one we use to find an angle using the law of cosines. So if you know three sides, we can find an angle. If you know two sides and the angle between, we can find a side length using the law of cosines. Okay, so there's real quick your attributes for your sine and cosine, and then your law of sines and cosines. Goodbye.